Welcome to Community Impact. I am your host, Jerry M. Sutton, RSVP Director for Sarasota and Manatee Counties. RSVP is sponsored locally by Senior Friendship Centers and federally funded by the Corporation for National and Community Service. Joining us today to discuss some community critical needs and their solutions are Adela Rozier. She's the Executive Director for Turning Points. Thank you for being here. And Rosie Wiley, and I'm going to read yours. You are AmeriCorps Ambassador Program Coordinator. Thank you. For Manatee County Government. That was a long one. So thank you both for being here today. As I said in the opening, we're going to talk about community critical needs and the solutions you guys are providing. Your programs are providing a lot of them. The community needs to know about them. So why don't we start with Adele and tell us a little bit about what your programming is at Turning Points and how you think the community can benefit from it.
Well, we have a lot of programs at the Turning Points. Our major focus is on preventing and ending homelessness. That's our mission. So all of our programs are geared towards providing services that help men, women, and children to services that can help them get beyond being homeless or hopefully prevent them from being homeless. We have a day resource center called the Open Door Day Resource Center. So we provide basic services like showers, haircuts, employment assistance, food, help with getting IDs, all those things that we take for granted when we have a house and a roof over our heads. Mm-hmm. The other program that's really beneficial to people who are in trouble with housing is the rental assistance program, which we call transitional development. And that helps people with rental assistance. So if they're behind in their rent, they're behind in their utilities, and they meet eligibility requirements, then we can help them stay in their housing, which is the most cost-effective solution, or we can help them get into housing if they've already lost their housing. And that's one of our most popular programs, which we have 3 case managers who operate that program. And then we have our newest program is the Veterans Program. It's our Yellow Ribbon program. And they provide services around, very comprehensive services for veterans and their families. It's all geared towards trying to get them back on track. We have so many different kinds of veterans coming back from war fronts or even from any kind of service, and they're really looking at what they can do to keep them in housing or get them into housing also.
Wow.
And then our last program is the new medical and dental clinic. We've just finished an expansion, and that is a program that's free medical and dental care for the people in the community. And since dental needs are the #1 health need in Manatee County, you can imagine that has a big impact.
Now, is anybody able to actually go and get services from the dental clinic?
There are eligibility requirements for residency and income, but they can try. Anybody who meets those eligibility requirements is eligible to go. Nobody who has insurance, no kind of insurance kind of person can be accepted, but if they meet residence requirements, they can.
Is there a waiting list?
It's not, we don't really keep a waiting list because we tried that and it got to be about 1.5 years long, and this is a transient population you're dealing with. If we can get a hold of them 2 weeks in a row, we're lucky. Not all of them, but many of them. So now we only take appointments and try to keep them within a week or 2 weeks.
Wonderful. So it's a quick turnaround then.
Yes, we don't take any more than that. We book for the 2 weeks and then slowly they fill that up after that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Rosie.
Jerry.
So tell us about what you're doing now, because we know you've done so much before. So tell us about what's going on currently.
Well, most recently, Manatee County government decided that they wanted to have an AmeriCorps Vista program. AmeriCorps Vista is the old action program. It's about 50 years old, called the Domestic Peace Corps, and volunteers in service to America. And the idea is that we have national service volunteers serve a year, meeting and looking at critical needs in the community and help make changes to help move people out of poverty. So we have an application into the Corporation for National and Community Service.
Yay.
And we're waiting to hear for its approval. The concept paper was approved. We're just waiting to get approval, and hopefully we'll be able to start soon.
Wonderful. So NCS, as I stated earlier, is our federal program that funds us, so I'm so excited. We're kind of a sister to you.
Yes.
RSVP is under Senior Corps, And
Exactly.
AmeriCorps is a sister organization, so we're kind of sisters, right?
Yes, we are.
Yes. So you had some questions for Adele because I'm sure that there's some overlap in what you're trying to address with your programming and what Adele is already doing. Have you formed any type of partnerships?
Oh, we have a long-standing partnership. We had an AmeriCorps Vista program in the past, and Adele had one of our AmeriCorps Vistas who ended up staying 5 years.
I think she's still on your website. Is she still
Linda
with you?
Gaines,
Yes.
it's possible. She's
Okay.
the longest serving Vista of anybody in the whole United States. They let her
Really?
serve 5 years.
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
Wow.
exactly. It
Very
was-
unusual.
Yes, very unusual.
So what are the benefits of being a Vista? Because maybe people aren't familiar with the program.
Well, it's a commitment of 1 year at a time, 35 hours a week, serve at a not-for-profit or a government agency or a faith-based organization. And there's a small stipend. It's a little bit less than $12,000 a year. But there's vacation, there's sick leave, there's a health plan, there's an education award that one might get, $5,675 for 2 years. And there's also the option of having a stipend at the end of each year of service of $1,500 or the education award.
Wonderful. Now, I did hear somewhere that they have something where you can give that to a child or a grandchild.
Yes, and that's something fairly new. They've been talking about it for some period of time, but for folks that are probably not going back to school or don't have a student loan to pay off, there is an opportunity to take the education award and transfer it to a relative, yes.
Wow, that's an incentive.
Of course.
Yeah, that's a
Really.
wonderful incentive. So because it's critical community needs, and we talked about homelessness and kind of the fight against poverty, would you say that we have a growing population of individuals in Manatee County who are under the age of 18, who are living independently and who are homeless, and who are actually in that poverty but don't have that protection of a parent who actually can step in? Because I saw somewhere on one of the websites that we have a growing number of children who are ending up homeless. Is that within their homes with their families and they're being kind of as a family unit homeless, or is it 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds? Can you kind of speak to that? Do you know?
Well, I do know that 2 years ago, Manatee Children's Services had a grant to provide services for that population from 16 to 23 years old. And at that time, I remember they had a study that showed there were around 1,500 kids in that age group. And a lot of those are kids either that aged out of foster care or that they had trouble at home. Being the parent of a teenager, you can understand that sometimes there may be a disagreement about things and the child ends up out on the street. So there is a population out there. I don't know whether it's growing or not, but we see those people all the time. And unfortunately, when Manatee Children's Services grant was over, they were not re-awarded, so that program that specifically provides services to that population is no longer there. So they kind of, if they're over 18, we provide services to them, but if they're under 18, they have to come in with somebody else, with a parent, to get the services that we offer.
Wow, so there's kind of like a little black hole from 16 to 18 if that's a group that's not being served. That's
And there
scary.
definitely is a problem with them completing high school.
Right.
Once they don't do that, then, it kind of goes downhill from there.
Wow, I'm sorry. I'm just taking a moment to kind of digest that. That's very scary to think about a 16-year-old's life actually stopping. They're stopped. They're stagnant at that point and have no really recourse.
One of the good things in this last legislative session, they approved that foster kids can stay in foster care for up to 21 years when they're 21 instead of cutting them off at 18. That was a huge step for the foster system. So in that respect, there are less kids who are having to be aged out of foster care at 18, but they're still 21 without a lot of support many times when they come out. So it's still tough.
It is. It is. And so, Rosie, when you say poverty, I think people have a connotation to that word. They don't fully understand what that means. And I know United Way has a program, the ALICE program, where they speak about people who are actually employed, but who can't really maintain the economics that they need to live on. So why don't you tell us about poverty? Kind of go into more detail about that. Explain to us what poverty really is, because we're going to be picturing only homelessness. And I don't know that that's the only place that poverty inflicts the community.
You're right. Most recently, I was involved with an organization that provided business counseling to folks that were of low income. And we opened it up to just everyone. But when I took a look at the guidelines, and Adele, you'll probably agree with this, the guidelines for Manatee and Sarasota County, there are a lot of people that live at the poverty level and below here in Manatee County. So when we felt that we were opening this up to everyone that wanted to start a business, we had more people than we knew that met the guidelines of low income. So a family of four is, I think, less than $45,000, I believe, isn't it, Adele?
Well, it depends. Their different programs have different levels that they have of poverty, but you know, for some of ours, it's the average median income. For one person, it was less than $12,000. So that's pretty low.
But when you start adding children to that, when you said something about the 40,000, I'm wondering if people would even self-classify themselves to take advantage of these resources, because in their mind, maybe they don't think they're in
right.
poverty level. Is there a place that people can go to actually identify themselves and say, oh my goodness, I actually do qualify for these? Is there a website that they could check the poverty level and know, okay, I fit into this parameter?
HUD's website has all the poverty information. And
Your website?
HUD's
HUD.
website.
HUD, okay.
Housing and Urban Development. If they go on like HUD.gov, they'd be able to find all that information. And also Manatee County, the different programs that provide help, like we have an ESG emergency shelter grant through them that would tell you what the parameters are for the poverty guidelines for that program. So believe it or not, a lot of the people who come in to see us, they already know what those guidelines are. They already know that they do or do not meet those guidelines. Right. They're pretty savvy. The population out there, what I find, and I don't know if that's what you see, is that they help each other. And if they find information that might be helpful, it goes through what we call the homeless mafia grapevine. And they all know everything very quickly, right, which can be good or bad depending on if it's good information or incorrect information. So,
wow, okay. So I'm hoping that the people who actually may not self-classify themselves as someone who would be able to get some of the resources would take the opportunity to check, because you really need to know what's out there to help you. RSVP has a couple volunteers at your location, and one of them is a gentleman named Herb. I don't know if you know Herb.
Sure.
A retired judge. And Herb speaks very highly of your programming, and he said that he feels like he has done so much good just by volunteering at Turning Points, considering he sat on the bench for years, and he was really there to correct. And now in the capacity that you use him, he's there to encourage, to get to know and to add value to people's lives. That seems very humbling to me, that a judge can actually see the difference from sitting on the bench to doing what he does. And I think he greets people at the door, doesn't he?
Well, Herb is a multi-talented person. We have him cross-trained to do many things. And that's one thing I would say, is that all of our programs are impossible to operate without the use of volunteers, especially the Open Door Day Resource Center. That we usually need between 25 to 30 people a day to operate all of the services, and I only have 1.5 paid person in that program. So obviously we need a lot of volunteers. There's tons of opportunities for people to have a huge impact in the community. We have everything from mentoring programs to helping to sort the mail that comes in every day, or like you said, a hair cutter. There's some specific needs that we have, and then some very general things that would take less than an hour to be trained into. So it's really the people who come in to volunteer are people who are looking for a way to have an impact in the community and to give back.
Right. And Rosie, I know that you work with Project Light. That's another location that RSVP provides volunteers. Can you tell us a little bit about that program? Because I know that you're on the board, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Project Light is a literacy program in Manatee County. It was started, this is our 20th anniversary, and Sister Nora Brick started the program with the help of Ed and Ann Griffin, and they are the parents of the program, and it's volunteers that come in and teach Manatee County residents how to read, speak, and understand English. So if you come into this community and you don't have a good knack for the English language, then you can come there. There's classes in the morning and classes in the evening. It's great.
incredible.
It's great.
I know that when I met Rachel,
Yes.
who I think she's the program director.
Yes.
She asked me to volunteer. First, it was Luce. I don't know, everybody probably knows Luce and how she is very good at getting you to say yes to anything. And so by the time the meeting was over, I had committed myself to volunteer at Project Light. I had committed myself to volunteer for the Roots program. But I also brought my son, who at the time was home for the summertime, to volunteer at Project Light, and he's 19. And he was a little nervous. How am I going to teach adults English? How do I do this? And I'm like, you just stand in front of the class and have a conversation with them. And by the time the first class was over, he was so excited about the prospect. And I was amazed at what a 19-year-old could do in a class of 22 people from a wide variety of backgrounds and languages.
And languages, sure.
And come out going, I think I was effective. That was very empowering for that 19-year-old. So I encourage anybody who wants to volunteer, whether you're 16, 19, 25, 50, 90. Although RSVP really works with 55 and over, I never want people to feel like they can't have some type of impact in the community. So it's a wonderful program. Wonderful program. Thank you for talking about it. I know that wasn't on the script. But I wanted to also talk about.
Can I just add something?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Turning Points, we also have two VISTA volunteers right now serving. I have my volunteer coordinator, who's a VISTA, Cheryl Hedger, and I also have Corinne Bruja, and she's a food stamp coordinator. So she's filling out, DCF has had a lot of cuts in the last few years, so people going online to try and get some food stamps have had a difficult time because it's not an easy application. So even at their office here in Bradenton, they don't have anybody who can help you one-on-one. And many of these people can't read, can't get through the application, don't know how to use a computer. So Corinne's actually in charge of training volunteers, making sure to get the people into the application process and through it successfully, or if they're not eligible, she tells them that. But that's a really important and highly impactful program, the whole food stamp program also that we offer.
Well, I didn't know that you had that program, and when I go to the Project Light, I'll make sure that some of the people who are getting the services there are aware of it. This cross informational opportunity is really important to the RSVP program. We want people to understand that no community partnership is just one and one to come up with two. We are not a silo. So what I know, you know, they know, everybody should know, and then we can work together to address the critical needs. It's not just Project Light by themselves. So I don't know if they're aware of your program. Maybe we should get some information and I can take it over to them and let them start referring people, because they would be a great resource for consumers for you, for that food stamp program.
Well, most of the people who are applying and go to DCF are referred over to our office now because they don't have anybody else to do it
imagine
one-on-one
that.
in their office.
That is interesting. What a great resource you are.
So we're very happy to have a VISTA person to be able to handle and coordinate that.
I don't think a lot of people understand the impact of AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Vista and CCC, and there's one I'm forgetting. There's a disaster. I think that's in CCC.
There's FEMA Corps. Yeah, but there's
FEMA Corps.
Yeah.
FEMA Corps. There's a lot of people who are donating their time to change the world. And I don't think people are, even Peace Corps, which we sometimes forget to mention, people are really giving back, and it's not too late. I knew a 80-year-old gentleman who went into the Peace Corps, said it was the best experience of his life. So it's wonderful to be able to give of your time, treasure, and talent. I wanted to speak about the World Traveler, and there was a notation. I'm sorry. There was a notation that said that if I ever get a chance to speak to you, that I need to ask you about whitewater rafting in Nepal.
Oh. Well, I can just say that I'm never going to go whitewater rafting again. It was pretty life and death. It wasn't exactly an experience that I would ever do again, but it was something that we had to get from one place to another, and the road was washed out. So
it wasn't intentional.
It wasn't really intentional, and I didn't have a choice, and we got caught and we had to stay in some local people's houses. I mean, it was really an amazing trip, but one that I would not want to do again.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's exciting. And Rosie,
Yes.
can you give me one kind of unique, funky, different thing about you that people would go, wow, Rosie, I didn't know that? Is that a hard question?
I really can't think of. I'm pretty much what you see.
Really?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. Yeah.
One of the things I always try to tell people when I ask that question is, I'll start with mine, that I was a semi-pro football player and played for a semi-pro team in Atlanta for a while. And then when I got recruited by a semi-pro male team, they came and recruited me. My husband said, okay, your football days are over. You are no longer playing football because I'm not letting you get tackled by other men.
Oh,
So
my.
that's always, people go, really? And they said, well, what position did you play? And I said, I was on the line. I did a lot of sacking. They called me the pancake queen. So
Wow.
that's something different and unique. People usually go, you're so prissy, I just don't see it. And I'm like, yeah, but suit me up.
Underneath that, yeah.
Suit me up and you'll see. So something like that. Do you have anything that you've done when
I don't, but if you'll let me think about this, invite me back, I'll come up with something, I'm sure.
you're going to go experience something?
Exactly.
Tell me what it
She's going to
is.
go bungee jumping.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. This is our first show, and it's been very easy to talk to you, so I thank you for that. I'm asking for any last comments. Is there anything that you'd like to share or some information for contact so people can get in touch with you?
I would like to say that I know we don't have a staff dedicated to public relations and marketing, and there are a lot of people out there who might be saying, what is Turning Points? Where are they? What do they do? And I would love to invite them down for a tour. We've just completed an expansion of our medical clinic, so from 3 to 8 exam rooms now we have. So I really would be happy to give anybody a tour at any time from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Wonderful. And you said that there was something that you wanted to touch on when we first started, something that you were doing with the programming. Do you remember what it was that was unique?
No, but I would like to say that if anyone listening and watching would like to be in AmeriCorps Vista, we'll soon be taking applications, and we have some focus areas such as education, healthy futures. Also, we will be talking about disaster, addressing some disaster needs in the community. And if they have an interest, I'd like them to contact me, and I think the information will be on the screen.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you for joining us today for this edition of Community Impact. I'm your host, Jerry M. Sutton, and I want to leave you with this thought from Robert F. Kennedy. The purpose of life is to contribute in some way to making things better. Thank you again.